Uh-oh. Here comes the hairdresser jokes, and a long line of dudes and bros who've come to question your masculinity due to your car choice. (1989) Mazda Eunos Roadster, also known as the MX5 in Europe and the MX5 Miata in the United States. The name Eunos was kind of a sub-brand of Mazda that existed in the early 90s and didn't really go anywhere or achieve much. The Eunos name was adopted for cars sold in the Japanese markets only, meaning this particular car is a Japanese import. Oh, gotta flex as a JDM import! My MX5 is the best because Japan! Look at me, everybody! I got a genuine Japanese one! Yeah, nobody cares. There are even guys out there who make a point to correct people over the name of these things. Oh look, that's a nice MX5.
Oh, actually, it's a Eunos Roadster.
Yeah, please stop with this. No one really cares. All the Eunos name means is that you get the option of a limited slip differential, also offered on the US models but not in Europe, which this car has, square number plates, air conditioning, indicators and headlight stalks that are back to front, gauges that are in metric, and the inability to understand the warning labels. The car you see in front of you is of course a Mark I MX5, also referred to as the NA, which is simply just a production code that signifies the first generation. The second generation is the MB, the third gen the NC, and the fourth gen the ND, which looks like an angry cat. It's the late 80s heading into the early 90s, and the golden era of the two-seater sports roadsters now appears as a bygone era, with the days of MG midgets and Triumph Spitfires now a distant memory. Nothing to fulfill the desire for cheap open-air thrills. Two-seater roadsters would appear to be out of fashion, as new exciting hot hatchbacks are taking the spotlight. Yet Mazda believes there's a market, so they get to work on a new design. But Mazda has never done this before. This is unknown territory. So what do you do in this situation? You copy your classmate's homework and you change the words a bit. And in this case, Mazda copied Lotus's homework. As most of us know, the MX-5 is heavily based on the Lotus Elan, and a solid interpretation of the British sports car. Want a British sports car that doesn't fall apart? Buy one of these. Mazda hit the nail on the head with cars selling faster than Barack Obama leaving for a game of golf. The simple formula of cheap fun presented in a conventional front-engine rear-wheel drive format proved to be a great success, and it's easy to see why. Firstly, there was minimal competition at the time, especially within a similar price range. An MX-5 at the time would set you back around £14,250. Alternatives in the UK at the time included the second-gen Elan, offering more power and more speed, but at a cost of £17,850, which is £3,600 more than the Mazda. TVR offered the S2 at £16,645, cheaper than the Elan, but still more than the MX-5. However, TVR is a small company. It doesn't immediately spring to mind as an option to the average consumer, not to mention that the S2 is only produced in limited numbers. For a more in-price range of £15,600, the Morgan Plus 4 presents itself, but they're outdated and unrefined by comparison, and in which you want something more contemporary. They're also hand-built, so there's years of waiting to get one. For less than an MX-5, you can get a Caterham 7 Super Sprint at £12,555, but that's just impractical. And finally, the cheapest of the cheapest, at £12,165, you could have a Reliance Scimitar 1.8 Ti, but that's not exactly desirable, is it now? Another key factor in the MX-5's popularity is that it provides sports car fun for those who can only afford or have the space for one car. The Caterham or Morgan realistically can only be owned as second cars, whereas the Mazda makes for a more reasonable daily driver. You can daily drive this car. It has a boot, it's reliable, a bolt-on hardtop is available for the winter months, and has a reasonable fuel economy. During the summer months, I even daily this car to and from work. One final point on the popularity of these things. MX-5s were popular due to the wide audience that they appealed to. It's a car that was youthful enough, in addition to its low price, to grip the attention of young buyers, but remains familiar enough to appeal to an older audience. It's nothing new. The same 60s sports car feel is served to you, minus the unnerving creaking or rattling, or any unscheduled disassembly that may occur during operation. The same idea, but a cleaner, more modern execution. The familiarity provides a sense of comfort to those who remember the classic Roadster era. Put Grandad in a Nissan 300ZX and he becomes discombobulated to oblivion. But put him in an MX5 and everything starts to come back to him. MX5s are honest and true to themselves. They don't try to be anything that they aren't. What you see is what you get. It's not truffle mayonnaise or Korean-style sticky barbecue sauce. It's just straight up plain ketchup, and people seem to warm to that. Under the bonnet is Mazda's B6ZE engine, a twin-cam 16-valve 4-banger with an aluminium head. Being an early car, this had the infamous short-nosed crank engine. All this means is that the keyway which holds the position of the pulley wheel relative to the crankshaft is not supported properly. It can wear, and there are horror stories that it interferes with the pulley bolt, resulting in it bending slightly, causing an imbalance, and boom, your crankshaft snaps. The design isn't great, but this mostly only occurs due to incompetent repairs or reassembly. There are plenty of internet punch-ups debating whether this engine is a ticking time bomb or not. It's mostly scaremongering, but it has led to many people avoiding purchasing cars with a short-nosed crank, or warning others to avoid cars with these early engines. I mean, really? This particular car, however, no longer has that engine. It's been swapped. I even swapped it myself. But that has nothing to do with the crank. No, no. Would you believe that this car was previously owned by a dear and sweet elderly lady who was unaware that there was no coolant present in the car, in which she had been using to go to the shops and back once a week? Naturally, this demanded for a head gasket replacement, so I popped off the head to be pleasantly greeted with a warped block. Technical analysis rendered this engine completely buggered, so after a short search on eBay, and 250 quid later, second-hand engine turns up, and we've been running ever since. The engine in this particular car is completely standard, producing 115 brake horsepower at 6,500 rpm and 110 foot-pounds of torque at 5,500 rpm. Woo! It's more underwhelming than the visit to Stonehenge. A 1.8 litre engine was also available, but that wasn't exactly a powerhouse either. But owners will be quick to defend the car by lecturing you on the handling and how superior it is. It's the automotive equivalent of a man with a small penis saying, "It's not the size that matters, it's how you use it." But despite whether that individual believes that to be true or not, he's still conscious of his size, in the same way an MX5 owner is conscious about his lack of power. So to make up for that, a defensive outcry ruptures into how the MX5 is the best handling sports car in its class. It's the best, it's the best, has 50-50 weight distribution, it's the best. Oh please, not the 50-50 weight distribution. Owners have to tell you about the 50-50 weight distribution. Did I tell you my car has 50-50 weight distribution? Excuse me, sir. Do you have time to talk about the Lord weight distribution? He's now that one guy who no longer gets invited to the pub because he won't shut up about his bloody weight distribution. But as much as this infuriates us, they are right. MX5s do handle rather well. They're light, with a curb weight of 960 kilos, have independent double wishbone suspension on all corners, and the weight distribution means that the car is very well balanced. This gives the car a chuckable handling characteristic, meaning you can throw this car into a corner and commit any number of rookie errors, and the car remains stable and predictable. At worst, it will understeer a little. Try and drive a Honda S2000 like this and you'll receive an unexpected visit from Mr. Tree. The ride is firm, but not uncomfortable, or at least it wasn't until I decided to lower it. Driving this Eunos Roadster to me is in a way comparable to driving a go-kart. It handles well and sticks in the corners, but it's got no power, only a small dusting in the higher rev ranges, meaning keeping your momentum up in the corners is critical, otherwise those revs drop and is back to square one again. But that's the whole experience of these cars, waiting for the long build-up to the power band and desperately clinging on to that power, teaching you to make the most of the little power that you do have. This car is equipped with disc brakes all around, as well as a 5-speed manual which has a nice short and punchy throw. This particular car does not have the optional power steering, so you feel all the bumps and imperfections of the road, which is nice and provides a raw driving feel. So raw, Gordon Ramsay would give you an earful. Pop-up headlights. They go up, they go down. down. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. My inner 5-year-old cannot be contained. Turns out neither can the inner 5-year-old of any passenger I've had. They see this big black round button in the centre of the dash. Curiosity subdues them. Oh, what does this do? Oh, it just pops the headlights up. Doesn't turn them on or anything, just pops them up. Such explanation is not suffice. Such curiosity must be fulfilled. The anticipation cannot be contained. The button is going to get mashed. It's the button's destiny. Other features included on an MX5 are this interior light, which is as useful as a handbrake on a canoe. The roof goes down in 1, 2, oh, it's down. Airbags are absent, so don't crash, otherwise facial reconstruction is in order. The battery is located in the boot in order to achieve that 50-50 weight distribution. And there is no carpet in the boot because that wasn't fitted as standard on early models. Weight reduction, bro. Now, I've made a couple of digs at the MX5 owners during this video. I must say that is only a small number of individuals. The wider community surrounding MX5s are actually one of the nicer, more accepting car communities, or at least I have found in my experience. I appreciate we are deviating from the car itself here, but I feel this is worth a mention because the following behind MX5s is so large. The owners, in part, make up for the modern identity of the MX5. Because MX5s are quite common, the community is rather open to modifications. You don't get rivet counters or hardcore campaigners for originality. You also don't get many internet arguments over numbers and performance figures. Subaru owners. Oh yeah, and those videos you see over the internet of MX5 owners popping their headlights at each other, at road junctions, etc.? That actually happens. I thought this was just something of an internet meme, but no, MX5 owners are genuinely happy to see one another, and I regularly get a cheeky pop-up of the headlights from fellow owners. Now, speaking of owners, I previously mentioned I had purchased this car from an elderly lady. She had been a long customer of my father, and credit to her, used this as her daily driver. She was looking to give up driving, and asked if I would buy it of her. So I did. For £80. Yes. 80 British pounds sterling. She said, please, take it off me. I just want rid of it. I'll only scrap it otherwise. So after refusing to take any more than £80, I couldn't refuse and landed myself an MX5. It did, however, require some TLC, as every panel was dented, the paint had completely faded, the roof had a tear large enough that Dwayne Johnson could fit through, as well as the previously explained engine troubles. But at the time, this early G-Reg car appeared to be near enough rust-free. At the time, there were no signs of any welding. At the time, I could flex this so hard because we all know MX5s are rust buckets. Breathe on one of these things, and it'll end up with more holes than a piece of Swiss cheese. I stress at the time, because this is my floor pan a few months back. As you can see, it is rather brown. If you are looking to purchase one of these vehicles, please do check for rust as they do suffer, in particular at the back of the sealed panel, where they join the rear wheel arch. But prior to the future issues with the brown, a light restoration began with the removal of all the dents and dings, resulting in body panels smoother than 80s jazz. A fresh lick of paint was slapped on in addition to a deep clean of the interior, before finally installing a new mohair roof to finish things off. Modifications. Yes, the MX5 is very much a car that invites you to add your own personal touches. As there are so many about, in combination with their large following, there is a huge variety for modifications found on these cars, which is made possible by such large aftermarket support. Here's a brief overview of some of the modifications on this particular car. As mentioned before, this engine is completely standard, but the suspension has been tweaked to accommodate adjustable coilovers. The car is now sitting a little lower than its original ride height, but not to the point that it scrapes on everything. The aircon has been gutted to improve airflow through the rad, as well as the fact that I can't attain the correct gas for it, so it would never work anyway. These wheels are 15-inch Japan Racing JR9s, which replaced a set of heavily curbed alloys that looked as if they were picked out of a Halfords discount bin. The radio has been replaced with a poorly fitted Etch-a-Sketch, and the door cards were replaced to now include door pocket and some fancy stainless steel bits. Ooh. A style bar was added to maybe, perhaps, sort of not really save my head in case I'm stupid enough to flip this thing over. Oh, and the headlight upgrade which nearly everyone puts in, and makes a Mazda's face look even cuter. Aww. But this cuteness is one of the reasons the Eunos Roadster is heavily hated. This car's popularity is simultaneously met with such hatred. Oh yes, people love to hate on the MX5. Why? Because it's soft. It's not masculine. It has no aggressive lines or styling. It's non-threatening. It's more innocent than the sun baby from the Teletubbies. I mean seriously, look at this cute little face. It's adorable. But this triggers the dudes and bros of the car world. If you purchase an MX5, at least one of your car friends is going to mock you. In pours the hairdresser jokes and the questions around your masculinity, if you're a male owner. But I urge you not to let that put you off, because the MX5 offers such exclusive enjoyment. You get the most reward from a stock MX5 away from the opinions of others. MX5s are independent, a very honest car that doesn't try to answer to anybody. They don't have anything to prove, they're not showing off. Not for burnouts or launches. MX5s invite you to a private enjoyment, an enjoyment between driver and car only, to bomb down country roads alone, to enjoy the tight handling and short punchy shifting, in solo and solo only. To me, this car provides an escapism from the testosterone-fueled car world, a place where everybody has to prove who's the most powerful, who has the loudest exhaust, who can do the longest burnout. A stock or lightly modified MX5 welcomes you to enjoy the simplicity and a fun-filled experience that is exclusive to you, without the urge to prove something or to show off to others. The need to prove ourselves to others commonly branches from a feeling that one is unworthy, unaccepted, undermined, or more commonly is in fear of being criticised. And the same extends to the car world, in how we feel about our own car choice and the mods that we make to them. The urge to prove ourselves is often a reaction to try and protect ourselves from criticism. The car scene is a world full of criticism, and protection from that criticism is often displayed in proving performance of one's machine, how well something is restored, or one's visual choices. This urge to prove can often spawn from the lack of confidence in ourselves and what we drive. People generally look for validation from others to support their self-worth, and car enthusiasts often do the same by trying to ensure that their car is better than everybody else's. But one does not need validation from others if they feel worthy enough, or have enough self-confidence. An MX5 has enough self-confidence. It just requires the owners to have enough confidence in making this his or her vehicle of choice. It requires its owner to be mature enough to put aside criticism from others, because you will get criticised for owning one of these. The foundation of self-confidence is derived from self-acceptance. This car requires the acceptance that it's slow, lacks power, lacks aggression, and has a face like an anime girl. Accept this, and criticism from others becomes irrelevant. An MX5 needs its owner to see past its reputation and judgment presented by others, and accept or understand this car for what it is. The ability to do so shows a level of maturity within its owner, and if you carry forward that maturity and uphold that, I promise you this machine will reward you greatly.